I appreciate the ability to participate today. It was great getting to participate in one of the breakout sessions and hearing the report outs from the other breakout sessions, as well as the presentations from earlier in the day. I found it really interesting and informative, and I hope all of you found it as helpful as I did. Now, I have to start out by acknowledging the obvious that 2020 was clearly a very bad year. From month to month over the last year, it has been impossible to predict what would happen next. Thank you for your willingness to discuss where you believe we're headed and how we can get there, and for the flood of ideas that have been coming in today. I know that it isn't easy to come to solutions. We talk about it all the time at EDD. We know that we don't have all the answers, and getting input from groups like this across the state is really important to us. At the end of a long day, we've listened to a lot of great presentations, been part of breakout groups. I want to leave you with a message. We're very optimistic about how we're moving forward. We know that a lot of our businesses still need our help, and we're working on ways we can do exactly that. We hope to come out in the next several days with some one-pagers on the economic development priorities for the session. But despite the uncertainty and economic turbulence, some New Mexico businesses are growing, and we're helping them as well. And there's a silver lining that we've seen through all of this. That's that we're increasingly hearing from businesses outside the state that they're interested in New Mexico. Many of them have discovered they don't have to be in one of the 10 biggest metro areas in the country. And many companies are deciding they'd prefer more affordable housing options, shorter commutes, better access to amenities like the outdoors. This is the sort of thing that Mayor Keller was talking about earlier, that we can be number one. And we really believe that at the state level as well. The New Mexico Economic Development Department assisted in the creation of more than 3,700 new jobs in 2020. And we're planning on how we can continue this momentum and expand on it moving forward. Over the years, New Mexico's ecosystem has exploded in a number of ways. In 2005, the state created a certification program for business incubators, and that was a good start. But co-working spaces and accelerators weren't even on the radar screen then. And there were only a handful of entrepreneurship programs in New Mexico. Those are mostly in our largest cities and universities. Now we are truly a rainforest in the desert, and thank you, Lisa, for being a key part of that. Our mission at EDD is to improve the lives of New Mexico families by creating opportunities for businesses to thrive. In order to do that long-term, we need a roadmap. We need to know how we're going to get from here to there. We're going to do that with help from a grant from the EDA, and we're going to undertake a 20-year strategic plan. But we're also not doing it alone because we know that we can't. We're working closely with the councils of government, industry, the New Mexico Chamber of Commerce, and we'll be seeking input from many other groups across the state. We want this to be an economic development plan for the state and for our businesses, not just for our department. And we want to make sure that it reflects the realities in each of your communities, the people, the great assets, as well as the challenges that we know that we need to address. The plan is going to be based on 4 pillars. The first is raise income levels in New Mexico. This is a key one for me. In my prior role as an economist, I used to note how in the 10 years following the Great Recession, New Mexico started to really diverge from the rest of the country on wage growth. We know that New Mexicans historically always made less than the US on average. But following the Great Recession, the growth rates changed. We at least had been growing at the same rate as the rest of the country leading up to the Great Recession. But for the 10 years following the Great Recession, we had not just a lost decade of job growth, but of wage growth. And now we have a much larger gap that we need to make up. We started to see some real progress in statistics for the year leading up to the onset of COVID. And that was really encouraging. We actually placed, I believe, 19th in the country for wage growth in 2019. That's fantastic. And that's momentum that we think we can continue even after COVID. The second pillar is diversify the economy and build on 21st century industries. Now, we know that we have too much long-term dependence on 3 sectors: oil and gas, public sector, and retail, but especially oil and gas. We know that over a third of our state revenues depend exclusively on the oil and gas sector. We also know that oil and gas isn't going to last forever, and that many companies are actively shifting away from demanding oil and gas related resources to clean, renewable resources. The state has a plan for moving to renewable energy. So we have to acknowledge the fact that that oil and gas industry won't be there forever to support our economy, won't be there forever to support our state budget. We need to diversify away from it. So if our goal is in 20 years to be significantly less dependent on that and on retail and on the public sector, how do we get there? We know it's a long-term effort, but we also know that we need to take incremental steps each year in order to finally get there. The third pillar is develop talent. How do we coordinate our efforts to make sure that we're training people? And I'm talking about both our youth as well as people who are already in the workforce wanting to change careers so that their skill sets match the jobs we're creating. We need to create better pathways of communication to make sure that's happening. That's already started under Governor Lujan Grisham's administration, but we need to figure out how can we make that even better and how can we make it lasting. And the fourth pillar is collaborate with state and local partners. That's something that the Economic Development Department is committed to, and we know we can do an even better job than we're doing now, but we also need ideas of how we can do that better. We don't want a plan that at the end of the day sits on our shelf and doesn't get used. We want a plan that works for all of you and that gets implemented. We want a plan that has actionable steps and identifies not just what we should be doing, but what should all of our partner organizations across the state be doing? We want to make sure that we're all moving in the same direction. The plan will have 3 sections. The first is a short-term recovery section. Essentially, how do we help our businesses right now in responding to the COVID-19 economic crisis? The second phase will be medium-term strategies, about 5 years out. And what can we do during this administration to ramp up the momentum and strengthen and grow our private sector, creating great jobs for our residents? The third section is going to be the 20-year strategies. How do we take concrete steps toward a truly diversified economy 20 years from now? And what do we need to achieve each year to get to that goal? These are long-term goals, but we need to know each year whether or not we're making progress. In order to complete this project in a timely manner, we have 2 RFPs open right now to hire contractors to help with a lot of the work and provide professional expertise and recommendations. One contractor will help us collect data at a state and local level and coordinate with economic development organizations and many other organizations and businesses across the state to get their input. Another contractor will use this data and guidance to build industry-specific strategies and clearly defined action steps outlining what needs to be done, which organization has the responsibility to take the lead on that item, and finally, what a reasonable time frame is for completion and meeting certain milestones. We're also in the process of hiring 3 new people with the EDA funds to help bring this plan to life. We know we're going through tough times, the toughest that many of us and the businesses we work for or own have ever experienced. But there is also hope. We have a great chance now to move economic development in our state forward in ways that we've never done before. But we'll need your help. So please join us to do what you can and support our planning efforts, our economic development priorities in the legislative session, and our work ahead. Thank you again for having me, and be safe, everyone.
Thanks, John. Really appreciate those comments. So I'm James Holloway. I'm the Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs at the University of New Mexico. And I hope that you've all found today's discussion as helpful as I have. Helpful in challenging your thinking, helpful in deciding what each of us will do next to help New Mexico for the success of all New Mexicans. As I listened today, I kept asking myself, what can UNM do? We can align curriculum with needs. We can help students know more about the opportunities that there are in New Mexico. We can partner with K-12 and community colleges to better pipeline students towards bachelor's degrees and graduate degrees. We can get all students involved in research. We can continue to conduct groundbreaking research on questions and problems of consequence and make sure that we are moving ideas out of the university and into impact in the world. And to undergird this, we can ask ourselves and answer some important questions like, what is our unique charter? What's our particular responsibility to New Mexico? And UNM is committed to convening the business, education, federal lab, and state government communities to continue to drive this discussion through a regular series of economic development summits like this one. And we look forward to holding the next one in person to really promote the networking that's so important for progress and success. As Lisa's indicated, we will have a written report on today's summit, capturing comments and discussion, and we'll look for other opportunities to connect with participants and explore the opportunities for next steps. Let me close with just a few thanks. This conference was designed by a wonderful organizing committee, including Rob Black, Dale Decker, Carrie Freeman, Lisa Kudla, Scott Lopez, Mitzi Montoya, and myself. And I'd also like to specifically call out Kara Mickelinson and the staff of UNM Rainforest Innovation who did all the heavy lifting. So thank you, Kara. Speaking personally, I greatly enjoyed my time working with my fellow planners on this project. I'm happy to work with any of you on anything. Finally, I'd like to thank all of you for your participation today. The future of New Mexico is in the hands of all of us. Thanks and have a great day.